Well, very good morning to you from San Diego International Airport Terminal 2. Today I am flying up to Seattle. About 4 months ago I took this exact same trip, and the point was to document how first class travel has changed since the pandemic. Well, 4 months on, let's see if it's got any better. Thanks for coming with me. If you're ready, let's go. A first-class trip with Delta starts with Sky Priority check-in, although depending on the time of day, the regular line at San Diego Airport is still fairly quiet. So guys, behind me is the security line, and if you think that your first-class ticket is going to get you a ride through an express lane in the security nowadays, well, I've got to tell you, I'm seeing that less and less at airports. In fact, since the introduction of TSA pre-check, it's very rare to find a line at the airport that's dedicated exclusively to first and business class premium passengers. So unless you've got that TSA pre-check, I would count on joining the main line. So behind me is the Delta Sky Club, and the question is, if you have a first class ticket, do you get access to the Delta Sky Club? And I'm afraid the answer is you don't, unless you hold an American Express branded Delta credit card. You can get in for $39, but other than that, you've got to be a top tier medallion member and have that privilege to get into the club automatically. So that's worth noting as well. I do often ask myself if it's worth going into the Sky Club. I mean, I do it quite regularly because I have the American Express branded card. But I was in one in Atlanta a couple of days ago, and that was their B Concourse flagship lounge, and it was absolutely rammed. You couldn't get a seat anywhere. And I know it depends on which airport you go through and at what time, and Atlanta's a busy airport at any time. But it just seems to me that you do take a chance if you go into these lounges that are just still going to be very, very busy. So the last time I flew first class to Seattle was an interesting experience, and I've put a link to that video in the description below. But it's fair to say the service was very stripped back, and I think that was understandable at the time. We'd just come out of lockdown, and you know, the airlines were struggling. So there was a marked reduction in service, mostly in the catering. The only catering on offer, obviously aside from the drink service, was a snack box that they gave you, which, to be honest, on very, very early flights was not particularly appealing, because it was full of dried food and beef jerky and, you know, stuff like that. So I'm interested to see if that's changed, because I know that the service offerings on rival airlines like United and American are bringing their first class catering back. In fact, they brought it back some time ago, albeit looking slightly different. Now Delta have resumed meal service, as far as I know, hot meal service on their coast to coast routes. So if you're flying from Los Angeles to New York, for example, then you can expect a meal, from what I understand. But this flight's just 3 hours to Seattle, so I'm interested to see how it's going to be. My flight to Seattle this morning is on board this 22-year-old Boeing 737-800. Delta prioritised their boarding process, inviting those that need a little extra assistance first, followed by active duty military, then first class, followed by Comfort Plus and the main cabin.
take a quick moment to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I've got some really cool things to share with you in the coming weeks, and I'd like you to be the first to be notified. So I'm here in the first class cabin seat 2A, and I remember these seats being really quite comfortable, and they really are because of the seat width. You get very generous seat width in first class on these Boeing 737s. The cabin service is very good. You get dedicated flight attendants in this cabin, and it's very good personal service. There's no trolley service. They come up to you and they take your orders individually for drinks and snacks. On the subject of drinks and snacks, I'm afraid to report it hasn't got much better. We're still seeing snack boxes, although to be honest with you, the snack boxes are better than what they were 4 months ago. You may remember we had the bistro boxes and the market boxes about 4 months ago, and they seem to be branded better now. I went for the bakery box this morning. There was a choice of bakery box or cheese box, and honestly the cheese looked really good, but it's just not particularly appealing to me at 7:30 in the morning. But you know, maybe if it was an afternoon or evening I would have done it. So I went for the bakery box, and I was hoping that there might be like a decent sized muffin or something like that inside. But as you can see, it's the usual mix of packet dried food. So it's nuts and granola bar and chips, and you know, again, it's a little bit uninspiring, and I feel that 4 months on from when I did my last first class blog, the service in the food options really ought to be better at this point. So I'm a little disappointed because I've seen vlogs from fellow YouTubers looking at United and American first class, and although the service looks a little bit different, you know, it's presented differently and a little scaled back, it still looks pretty good and what you would expect to get in a first class cabin. So at this point, you know, you really have to say that Delta are just cutting costs, and you know, it's understandable. We are still only a few months out of lockdown. Travel's recovering slowly. Let's not forget the airlines had to take billions of dollars in bailout money, and I think the priority is keeping the staff employed, keeping the payroll going, keeping the planes in the air and safe. And quite honestly, a hot breakfast is not a priority, and I totally get that, but I just feel that it could be slightly better than what's currently on offer. As we passed over Northern California, you could see some of the active wildfires currently blazing away. In September and October, this is fire season in California, and these events can be absolutely devastating to local communities. It seemed a bit silly to be sat in a first class seat complaining about the breakfast.
The seat, like I say, is very comfortable, very generous seat width, lots of leg room. The screen is slightly bigger than what you'd get in the main cabin. I only really watch the in-flight map, as you know. Each seat has USB power and main power as well, if you want to use it and you want to do some work. The tray tables are oversized and very nice. If you want to get your laptop out and do some work, that's good. There is Wi-Fi on board as well. I don't generally buy it because it's just it's a short flight, and I find it a little bit expensive, and quite honestly very hit and miss as regards to whether it actually works or not. So really the bottom line is there's not much to report. Nothing's really changed. I'm very disappointed to say. Is it worth the money? That's the question. I think that's the question most people want to know when they're looking at these videos, is it worth it? For me, the comfort level still makes it worth it, but The rest of the product does leave a bit to be desired.
Well, after a very quick flight time of just 2 hours and 14 minutes, flying mostly at 39,000 feet, we made our approach into Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, landing at 9:31 a.m. local time, 45 minutes ahead of schedule.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Seattle. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until the captain brings the aircraft to a complete and final stop at the gate.
So guys, looking back at that flight, I think I got exactly what I expected with Delta First Class this morning, which is really good service, priority boarding, priority check-in, very comfortable seat, a safe on-time flight. I mean, those are the most important things. The only real disappointment still is the food situation, and I do think that Delta could just do a little bit better. And quite honestly, it really doesn't take that much more to improve significantly on what they're doing. So is it still worth it? I mean, that's really for you to decide. If you travel with an open mind and manage your expectations and understand that we're still recovering from this pandemic, airlines are still cutting costs and saving money, they're going to continue to do so. And if you manage your expectations like that, that'll be the way to enjoy your experience.
Here's a better view of the 737 that we flew up on this morning, and having not touched any of the contents of the bakery box on board, my first task was to find a decent breakfast at Seattle Airport.
Okay guys, well that's it for this flight. Thank you so much for coming along with me. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care, your SDAV Geek.